This is more of a personal question, but I'm just wondering when does the erectile dysfunction kick in?
I mentioned before that I was going to use the podcast as an excuse to get a harem, one girl to clean the house, one girl to cook, and as far as the sensual part, I pretty much outgrew that.
Okay, awesome. Here you go.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. So welcome guys to Unzipped. This is Larry. I'm just gonna tell the story of how we met. So basically, me and my girlfriend were walking down Hollywood, and I just see this man hand us a little business card, and I was just intrigued. I wasn't sure if you were a life coach, guru, and I wanted to find out more. I had to, so I texted him. I wanted to see if we can arrange an episode, and it was immediate, honestly.
Huh.
So yeah.
Well, I've clarified things. I'm nobody, but if that was a profession, I'd be Mr. Nobody. But I think it's good enough just to be as humble as we are. When we're born, we don't have a profession, we don't have a religion, politics, and I think that things were better then. If we could be as innocent as we were when we were born, all we had was life and a natural instinct to savor life. So I think we should get that excited again about being alive as we were when we first encountered this beautiful opportunity. Life has such a scope, anything is possible.
I agree with that. And so I do have a few topics that I've written down on my notes, and I'm just going to go through them. Obviously, if we get off track, that's okay. The first one that intrigued me the most had to have been the broad. You did some radio hosting, right, up in Boca, correct?
Yeah, I enjoy that very much.
Yeah, I would love if you would dive into that. It's up to you though. I don't want to cross any boundaries.
Sure. It was a regular radio show, and I came in as a co-host, and then I got to pick a lot of the guests, and some of the guests were writers, scientists, politicians. We had a full scope, and I got to bring my friends on. And a lot of my friends work with the same person that I've worked with for 50 years, trying to spread a message of hope and peace to the world and a method to feel that peace. His name is PREM RAWAT. And he does this for free for anyone interested. If they have a thirst in the heart, he says he shows you how to connect it to a satisfaction. And we definitely need to be fulfilled. We do so many drastic things to be fulfilled. It would be much better if we did the right thing, because there is something built in, a built-in treasure that we could excavate if we had the right tools. And Prem makes it his pleasure to give those tools to people who want them. So that's what I like to give the card out to people. I have a book here. It just dropped at a perfect moment. Prem put this book out about a year ago. It went right to the New York Times 10 best-selling list. And he delineates a little bit more about what he does, what he offers, and what people's potential is to feel good. And again, we knew this when we were kids, that was our duty to ourselves, to be as happy as we could. And somehow we've forgotten as we got older. And we bought into a whole bunch of misery that is none of our business. We should get out of the misery business and get back into the joy business, because that's what we're meant to be in. It's the oldest business running, and it's the only one that will never go bankrupt.
That was a good one. So with this with the show, that was the only agenda to bring to enlighten people, or was there some other motive?
No, this has nothing to do with business or religion. There's no money involved, because it's priceless. The gift of self-knowledge and knowing how to access that joy within, it begins where money leaves off, where every other pleasure leaves off. It really is a world unto itself, and we all have a passport to that world already. So we should make use of our world. It's like if you had a treasure under your bed, you'd want to spend it, not be out there begging for pennies every day and suffering when you could be enjoying. So find your treasure, let someone show you. He describes himself as a mirror. He says over his lifetime, people have called him everything from a guru to a master to whatnot. And he says, I'd rather just think of myself as a mirror. I'm here to reflect back to you the beauty that's inside of you.
Right. Okay.
I'd rather look at you than at the camera.
Yeah. I've been looking at you the whole time. Yeah. So
I'm still getting the swing of this thing.
So you've never done camera work?
It was a radio show. Everyone on it, they said, we're the kind of people, we have a face for radio.
Okay.
Anyway. He got it. Okay.
And how often did that go on for?
Every week.
Every
It was the
week.
closest thing I've had to a job in my life. I had to show
Yeah.
up every Monday to be on the show. And it was really delightful because I got to meet people. Some of them had been my childhood heroes. And I've spent my life meeting most of the people who've been my heroes. And that's been delightful to know that you have to be your own hero. That
Right.
everyone has, they're gifted at a moment in time and they have something to offer. Everybody has a gift. We all have something to offer. But you should find your gift. Our purpose here is not to idolize anybody else, put anyone else on a pedestal, but find how wonderful you can be.
So I want to ask you, how and when did you reach this point in your life? Because I can't imagine that you've always been this, this peaceful, I want to say.
Well, all the virtues come together. They're like a package deal. They
Right.
are put into all of us. We're born with them, but we don't access them. Except in certain emergencies where we have epiphanies or something is expected of us and we come out, the good comes out. But to be able to do that consistently, there is a science to it. It seems to me, from looking at history, there's always been someone who could show people, exemplify what a human being should be and could
Right.
be, and show other people how to do it likewise. That's what PREM is doing now. I wasn't around 2,000 years ago, so I can't say for certain that this has been shown before. But I know that what was shown to me when I was 17, and I met PREM when he was 13, and he started teaching when he was 8, he started speaking in public when he was 4, and I started longing for this from the time I was born. So to meet someone who said so boldly that he could show me what I was looking for,
Right.
I said, okay, prove it. Because I come from New York. It's a whole city full of wise guys.
Yeah.
Everybody, you can't believe anybody. And so I wasn't ready to believe anything. And he recommends that to people too. Don't believe anything. Stick to what you know, and you can know yourself.
Right.
And you can experience the unlimited joy within yourself. And that's really about as good as you could expect from a human lifetime. If you ever ask us, what do you really want out of this life?
Right.
And they'll start off saying, well, I'd like more money than God. Okay, but what do you really want? Oh, I'd like everybody to love me. What do you really want? And the person will say, I just want to be happy. I just want to feel peace. So I feel that I'm just fulfilling a potential that everyone has. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't met this person. That's why I'm so avid telling people, check this fellow out, what he can do for you. Again, you have nothing to lose financially. You'll invest a little bit of time in it, but what you get back would be timeless. And one of his websites is called timelesstoday.com. So that fits right into the picture.
Yeah. Okay. And when did you move down here?
I came down 30 years ago to take care of my parents. They had gotten sick, and I realized for the first time what the word duty meant, that they had taken care of me all my life, and now I had to take care of them. And it was a privilege, an honor, a pleasure. I learned so much. My father had been a doctor. He'd always told me to study alternative medicine. There's much wider scope of what you can learn to help people, and there certainly is. And I got to use whatever I'd studied to help my parents have a more beautiful end of their life.
Right.
And I think we all deserve that, a good beginning, a good middle, and a good end. And if we all work together, we could make that possible for everyone.
Yeah.
There's enough resources on the planet. Everybody could be fed. They could have clean water, clean food, clean air. It wouldn't take any more than a little cooperation on our part, a little kindness. It wouldn't take a new institution. It seems that the governments haven't done it, the religions haven't done it.
Yeah.
So we don't need to make the same mistake over and over. Let's leave it to people. People can take care of people.
Right.
And we like to. We want to. We do it very well.
Okay.
So that's a beautiful potential we all have too.
And what kind of alternative medicine have you dabbled with?
Just about everything. There's so many things that I was just telling my new friend before that everything based on breathing, that in yoga they say the breath is the bulwark on which all the other life functions are based. So I like to tell this to doctors a lot and healers, that if they just tell their patients, do whatever is conducive to breathing. Do nothing detrimental to your breathing.
Okay.
Do everything that facilitates breathing. That can include massage, exercise, nutrition, but use the breathing as the basis. Is it helping you breathe deeper and better and more, and feel the essence of that breath? Not just that it's a gaseous exchange with the atmosphere, but it's what's keeping you alive. So cherish it and relish it like your life string, because that's what it is.
So we were having a conversation up on his, what would you call it, dock?
There's a deck upstairs.
Deck.
You can see the ocean. You can see the nature.
Yeah.
Because I also figured it's very good for my breathing to be around fresh air.
Right.
So
we were up there and we are kind of I was doing a bit of breathing exercises or not, you know, I was doing a made up exercise.
I was telling him to make up his own
Yeah.
Tai Chi, because once upon a time people made those things
Yeah.
up. And we're just as capable of making up the movement that makes you feel better. Only you know what makes you feel better.
Yeah.
So everyone should make up their own song and dance. You shouldn't do someone else's song and dance.
Right. And we were up there and you're actually talking pretty passionately and I agree about just like the vaping and like what the newer generation is.
I'm a
into.
big anti-drug advocate because people have come to the conclusion that they're made out of chemicals and if they self-medicate with the right chemical, they'll have the perfect balance. We're not made out of chemicals. We're made out of biochemicals, bioelectric, bionuclear, bio all the way. It means we're alive. So we need more life force. We need things that make us happy to be alive. If a person doesn't want to be alive, nothing's going to make them well. The best doctor in the world can tell you that, you know, try to take a sickness away from someone who's attached to it. It's like trying to take a bone away from a dog. That the person has to want to be well. They have to want to be alive.
Right.
So, and they need a reflection of that sometimes. They have to be with someone who is enjoying their life. And that can be the best thing that a so-called doctor or healer could do for the person they're helping. Just set an example of someone who's doing the right thing, enjoying their own life, and it's very contagious. It'll make other people go, "Hey, that's what I want to do."
I agree with that. I mean, I'll be honest. I like to smoke pot, but my girlfriend doesn't. And honestly, since she is,
well, you're very lucky to have her.
She doesn't indulge in any of that, and it honestly does. I've stopped. Like I don't smoke weed as often as I used to.
Good.
So that, I mean, I do agree with that. It is
you don't need to. There was a great doctor of yesteryear named Paracelsus. And he said that if you take a drug for a disease you don't have, it'll give you that disease. So when you think that in Ayurveda they came to a conclusion a long time ago that cannabis cures a lot of things, and it probably does. It's one of many medicines on the planet. But when you take a medicine capriciously, egregiously, recreationally, you are you don't use nuclear energy recreationally.
Right.
You don't use electric energy recreationally. You don't use chemical energy recreationally. It can have serious side effects.
Okay. And I want to dive just deeper into your background, man. Like I want to know if you went to college or not.
No,
you didn't.
I didn't.
Cool.
I decided when I was young that the school system, when most people graduate college, they never read another book. This is a horrifying statistic. I have been reading all my life. I guarantee, pit me up against 100 college graduates, and I've read more and understood more than they did because they didn't want to learn to begin with. The educational system forces you, it unscrews your head, pours information in, expects you to digest it. You didn't want it to begin with. You're going to get rid of it as soon as you don't need it anymore. You know, to graduate.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And yet we love to learn. Every child, and we're all children at heart, no matter how old you are. I'm feeling more like a child every day as I get older. You know, in body, my heart is feeling more the preciousness of every moment. And that's what we felt when we were kids. Every moment was self-contained. We didn't put off till the next day or the next year our happiness. We knew if we weren't happy right then, something was wrong. And we have to get that feeling back again. We deserve. It's our birthright to be happy.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And so you didn't go to college. So what was for you next? Because I mean, obviously, like you live in where you live it's beautiful. And I don't know if you mind me poking in there and
No, I have no secrets.
How you got here financially.
Well, my father was a very successful doctor.
Okay.
He was a president's doctor. He used to check the president's pool wasn't poisoned at the White House, and he worked doing many things in his life as a surgeon, as a pediatrician, as a general practitioner. He made house calls into ghettos when nobody else would do that. At one point in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, the Black Panthers had threatened any white doctor came in, they would kill them if they came in to treat the kids there or anything. And my father kept going in, and the mothers told the Black Panthers, leave Dr. Lustbader alone. He loves the kids love him. So I had a good example from him of a person doing their work in this world out of love. He wasn't doing it for the money, but he still made enough. And he wanted me to be able to be a professional student for life so that I could keep learning and keep sharing what I learned with people to help humanity more. He said there's two limited parameters of what doctors can research and implement. Yeah. But in alternative, in secondary medicine, holistic medicine, there is unlimited possibilities. Right. And when I met Prem when I was 17, and he showed me how to know myself, I said, that's the subject I'm most interested in. Out of all of the different subjects, if you don't know yourself, all the other subjects are like useless anyway, because you have to live with yourself. your whole life. Not trigonometry is not going to save your life or give purpose to it, but feeling a bubbling up from inside, and kids are well familiar with that feeling. So again, that child at heart feeling is imperative. Never lose it, increase it.
I do want to touch on what you said earlier, that you've been a millionaire at some point in your life. I'm sorry, I really want to grab
let me put it a different way. My father had made a lot of money, and when I came down to take care of them, all the resources were available so that I could create the perfect environment for them. And I fully intended, at one point my father said, "Oh, I'm spending your inheritance." I said, "No, you made the money, it's for you. I want to set an example to other people that they should take care of their parents also."
Right.
And that it is, in Europe and all around the world, that's much more common than America. Here people put their folks in an old age home, and they're horrible institutions. They're not humane. They're enough to break your heart to see that a person spent their whole life taking care of, doing their work for society, and what does society give them in return? And they did that work for their children, and what did the children give them in return? So there are certain duties we have. There's an ancient word, dharma, having to do with duties we have to ourselves, to God, to nature, to each other. And when you're leading a life of duty, they say the selfless service, as it's been called also, it seems to erase the ego and bring in the divine, the love instead. And that's what more people could do. We don't need bigger egos. We don't need bigger bank account. When a person's a billionaire, they really need more money. We don't need more anger to be a better warrior and kill more of the enemy. We need more contentment. We need more compassion. We need more kindness. We need a lot more of those virtues of the heart. If you have a little love, learn how to increase it, learn how to exponentialize it. And a lot of the things in this world, enough is enough, not too much or too little, and we'd be just fine. But there are certain elements of the heart that need to be increased, that deserve to be magnified as much as you can. And that's what we should devote our extra ambition to. And it would be nice if the millionaires could admit to people that the millions did not make them happy. And then if they looked for happy people and say, well, what makes you happy? And you'll find it's very consistent. What made them happy? They trust what comes from within. Maybe they were lucky enough to have someone show them how to dive deeper and deeper within and bring out more of that feeling, and then share it with others. That increases the happiness too, to help others be happy. At the end of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it says that the gods judge you. Did you find peace? Did you help others find peace? That's the final question they ask to see if you're allowed to get into Egyptian heaven. And they say, did you find joy? Did you help others find joy? And this is, a lot of depressed people would be amazed to find out that if they thought a little bit more of the people around them instead of their own depression. And I know depression can be crippling, and I'm not downsizing the horror of it. But I'm saying, taking those drugs, where did this generation learn to take a drug for everything? From doctors who just made believe that chemicals could cure everything that they can't. The mind is very subtle, and chemicals are very gross. And you're not going to cure mental disease with that. Maybe there is some people who it can help them find a certain chemical balance, but the mind is much more sophisticated than that, and you need something even more sophisticated to cure it. And that exists within you already. We need to be put in touch with it. We all have a genius within us. Every great genius has said that everybody is a potential genius if put under the right environment and inspiration. And they knew that. They knew the nature of genius because they possessed it themselves. And they didn't underestimate anyone else's potential to achieve that also. So don't underestimate yourself.
So I want to touch on that. I'm actually glad that you touched on depression and pills, because actually there's just recently they've started playing around with chip implants to cure depression. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
And they're also, psychedelics are making a comeback with that.
Yeah.
It didn't work in the 60s. It's not going to work now. Timothy Leary was trying to convince people this will turn crazy people normal. It'll turn criminals into saints. It didn't work so well with Charles Manson. And I know, I'm a child of the 60s. I saw my peers not get saner, happier, healthier from any drugs at all, including psychedelics. Now there's the whole ayahuasca movement, making believe that it's a sacred drug. The divine is one thing and chemicals are another. When you mix material and spiritual together, it's like mixing milk and lemon. It curdles. There's something that is not going to be what you expected, and it's not going to be something good. It's like mixing politics and religion. The result of that is pretty horrifying too. So
Yeah.
certain things, before you mix anything, find out what every element is in itself, what it's meant for, how it can be maintained at optimum capacity. And
Right.
sometimes you don't just play, because these people get money. They get
Oh
government
yeah,
money
no,
from
for sure.
doing research, and they'll do
Yeah, yeah.
anything. They write a paper and they get funding, and then they'll stop your funding if you actually come out with something that can help people, that would take a little less money out of the medical profession and a little more health back to the population. But they won't fund that. A friend of mine is a Nobel laureate. He developed synthetic insulin, and he pretty much quit the system when he found out they would defund him whenever he came up with actual cures for things. And now he's kind of looking forward to getting proof that there's any reason to be optimistic. So I feel that, I asked him once, they say that there's a peace gene inside of people, that it comes from the monkeys that we descended from, or ascended from, and but it's not activated in us like it is in them. So how to get this activated? And I thought he'd give me an answer because he invented the first GMO, and I figured he knew more about activating genes than anybody. And he said, you'll be the one to activate it, not me particularly, but people who are at peace are going to be the ones to activate it in others. And that's exactly how it works. He was completely correct. He's more than a genius in science. That was a genius in humanity, just like Einstein. He was not just a physics genius, but
Right.
he was a genius philanthropist, a humanitarian. He loved people.
Yeah,
And-
he was like a new age Renaissance man. Almost.
That's yeah. He said without his violin, he would have gone crazy.
Yeah.
The music was imperative to keep mental health.
Right.
So
I want to ask you I want to get your thoughts on the newer generation falling under the simulation belief, because a lot of people in my generation, it's kind of increasing that people believe that we live in a simulation, right? Like I mean, like I'm talking about like a video game.
Yeah.
There's a creator up there,
Even some top scientists will lend credence to the idea that this is a hologram we live in.
right?
Whatever it is we live in, are you enjoying your life? If you are a robot, if you are whatever you are, conceive yourself to be, are you having fun yet? There's a teacher in India 100 years ago, Ramakrishna. He said, theologians have been arguing forever, why does God create a universe? Is it a morality play? Are there lessons to be learned? He said, none of that, it's for fun, which gives me good reason to believe that why the kids have more understanding. I tell rabbis this all the time, priests, to ask the kids about God. Don't try to tell them about something that they're more familiar with than you are. Maybe,
Right.
And the Pope supposedly admitted that to St. Francis back in the day. They had an interview, and he cried to St. Francis. He said, when I was a young man, I wanted to live the life that you're living, totally innocent, totally pure, doing everything right. But then I got caught up in the religious rigmarole, and now I got to play a role, and I wish I could be you. So I think we would all be good if we're young enough. He's only 20.
Yeah.
And he still has a great chance to be true to his own. On my birth certificate, my father put that quote on, to your own self, to thine own self be true. And that's truer than ever nowadays. You don't have to get caught up in anybody's theories of reality or philosophies. You can come to your own conclusion. You can have your own experience. You can know for yourself. And that's what PREM tells people. Instead of listening to a million... And Rumi, 800 years ago, said the same thing. He said, if you put 1,000 philosophers in a room, you'd have 1,000 philosophies. But if you put 1,000 saints in a room, you'd have the same experience. Now, I've heard from PREM, when somebody asked him kind of jokingly, could he change his name to Saint this and that? And PREM said, you don't need to call yourself a saint. He said, a human being has the same experience. What we think of as a saint are people who feel lots of love, lots of joy, lots of God. He said, that's a human being.
Yeah.
That's how we should all be feeling to begin with. So really, it's an unnecessary designation, saint this and that. It's time for us all to become human, fully human, delightfully human, enthusiastically human. And we'll find that has within it everything that we ever, and you're not going to take a class for that. The whole S trainings, it came from Christian Science, then Science of Mind, then EST, and then Landmark and Forum. And they're all teaching people the mind control techniques. Usually what people want to learn is how to control other people's minds. When I did the radio show, we had a lot of guys who'd written books on how to seduce 3 women a day. And I said, so really you want to put them under mind control, you want to hypnotize them. That's a form of rape, isn't it? And they never thought about that before, but they say, yeah, but I really want to sell this book. And, so I didn't want to discourage them from being a writer, but write about something that really helps people, not how people can better take advantage of one another in the wrong way, but how we can help each other more. And that's what's really on our mind, I think. You'll never go wrong helping people do that.
No, of course not. And since, I mean, you've been a radio co-host yourself, what do you think of now the new media, very sensitive, and people want to...
Politically correct?
Yeah, politically correct.
You can't have humor and political correctness at the same time. Humor is so important. Mark Twain said one joke has more power than all the political speeches put together. So we have to lighten up, and we have to treat each other with the foreknowledge that this is another intelligent human being who can get a joke. You don't have to worry so much they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
There's an old saying: if you can't take the joke, okay, never mind. That's not. But
no, I want to hear.
Well, no, I shouldn't we be keeping this relatively clean? No.
That's actually the point of my podcast. I don't like being politically correct. I like talking to all walks of life.
Well, in that case, since I'm from Brooklyn, I can say it. Fuck them if they can't take a joke. Okay, so that should be the motto. That should be the name of a podcast, And then make that podcast as funny as possible. Get the best comedians on it, professional and amateur. There's people out there who are hysterical. Yeah. And that's a form of therapy we haven't used enough. I mean, joy just, oh my goodness, it just washes away. It's the practical solution, happiness. People think, well, I'm at my wit's end, I'm at my rope's end, it's time for me to just give up. No, you haven't tried. There's a lot you haven't tried yet. Mm-hmm. And it's built in. It doesn't even take someone else's happiness. Yeah. We've all got that. And we need the right trigger, and you need the right catalyst, and you need the right teacher, the value of a master of a subject to make it possible for you to do something you never could have done before. You can't look at a circuit board and just instinctively, no matter how good your intuition is, you have within you the potential to work with that circuit board, but you need someone to show you the how and the when and the why. And so, again, if you don't, I've got a lot of things to talk about, but we have a certain amount of time limit here. But if anything else, if you take away anything from what I said, it's just to check out PREM RAWAT. He has another website, premrawat.com. It's PREMRAWAT.com. And check out someone who makes no claims to anything except that he can help you know yourself better. And that is the most valuable subject and the most valuable expertise in the world. So I recommend it to everyone. I have so much fun giving out these cards, maybe 50 a day, and I find it makes no difference if I'm giving it to a young person, an old person, whatever religion they come from, whatever race, whatever they fancy themselves at. I don't think you could do a DNA test and see the difference between a Democrat and a Republican. There is no difference between human beings. We all have amazing potential. You look at the people we admire through history, Buddha, Jesus, Leonardo da Vinci. We all have that potential inside. Don't wait for society to put you in a circumstance for it to come out. You have to make up your own mind.
Right.
I want to be the best me that I can be. And you don't need a million motivational speakers telling you that. And Prem said, someone asked him if he was a motivational speaker. He says, I cringe at the idea of being a motivational speaker. He said, what people go in and the motivational speaker saying, you can do it, and everyone gets all excited, and then they leave, and 5 minutes later they go, do what? What?
Right.
It was the kind of energy you get off of drugs. That 1 minute you think you're God, and the next minute you go, oh my God, that was like, you come down from it. That was not an actual. There is a way that we can experience the divine within us, but it's not drugs. It's not the tantric stuff. I have friends who do a tantric cruise line, and they say after 24 hours of all the sensual pleasure you could stand, you're going to be on your way to being an enlightened soul. You're going to be enlightened that it's a lot of money out of your pocket. Your body doesn't feel any. There's no residual effects from that. There's certain pleasures that are a necessity for the body, and certain pleasures that kind of take you over the line, and they will result in inevitable pain. There's a balance in this world, and there's many people who've gone through that, so it's not like a sour grape thing, like, oh, they didn't do it. People who are wise and they did it, and they can tell people who are embarking on that path that they're going to come up against a wall. And then there's one path you could walk on. You can keep walking and having fun for the rest of your life. doesn't have a cliff, it doesn't have a wall.
Right.
You can just keep on that, find that path.
Yeah. I like what you said there. I mean, yeah, after the motivation ends, the discipline is what kicks in. We're hitting the 30-minute mark, and I don't want to take up any more of your time. I do want to ask you one question. At the ripe age of
69.
69, what is your daily life looking like? What do you do on the norm?
I wake up and I feel like a newborn baby. It's a new day. It's a new possibility. I'm so glad to be alive, and so much that is potential out there. I feel the same potential that I felt when I was young. They say the brain doesn't really age. This is an interesting thing that we can't. There are people like Noam Chomsky. Now he's 95. His brain is working better than ever. He was the top linguist in the world, and then he became the top political analyst. And he's just a hell of a role model for people if they want to see that age doesn't have to deter your functioning. And Jack LaLanne, he was still towing a barge behind him, swimming with his feet tied together at 90 years old. So one of my ambitions is, maybe I've got, if I'm lucky, another 20 years left, and I want to be even healthier. I want to die of an overdose of bliss instead of even the angel of death will have to say, look, I'm just going to have to let you go out on the high road. I want to die from life, so much life that I just become one with it and seamlessly go into that ocean of life like a drop going back to the ocean it came from. But not. I don't want to feel that I have any remorse at that point that I didn't do what I came here to do. And I already feel that I did. So every moment from now is a plus. It's gravy.
Right.
It's extra.
There's more of a personal question, but I'm just wondering, when does the erectile dysfunction kick in?
I mentioned before that I was going to use the podcast as an excuse to get a harem, one girl to clean the house, one girl to cook, and as far as the sensual part, I pretty much outgrew that. Well, your hormones, any doctor can tell you this, and it's one of the reasons kids should get sex ed when they're very young. My father wanted to bring sex ed into New York decades ago because he was tired of, as a pediatrician, of all these girls coming in pregnant at 13 years old, and the church refused to let them bring sex ed into the schools. And now, every couple of decades, things go back. First they go forward, and their cultural, just like fashions come back after 30 years. Unfortunately, ignorance can come back. And
history repeats itself.
So we have to be very careful that we know how to keep things going forward. If you like something, you're responsible for keeping it alive, teaching others to make sure that it doesn't become forgotten knowledge. But anyway, the doctors can tell you that at a certain point in your life, the hormones will abate, and there's nothing you can do. You can get your body to think that it's younger, and that can give you a heart attack. So the danger of young women to old men. No,
camera's too hot.
Yeah.
So it's just you and me now.
Okay, so I'll continue where I left off. Speaking about old men and young women, a friend of mine was divorcing another friend of mine, and she was much younger than he was, and she'd been like a supermodel. And one of her friends was Oprah Winfrey, and Oprah wanted her to do a show on the danger of young men marrying young women marrying older men. Right. But I think that's one factor they weren't going to get into. But there is a medical factor too. You don't want to, even with a younger girlfriend, you want them to have the best experience. So you want to tell them to get a younger boyfriend because you're not going to be able to satisfy them the way that someone of their own peer level could. So it's really a cruelty. So the woman deserves more. So if you love someone, if you're an older man and you love a girl, you're going to tell her, get someone who can. And it's funny because the injunction in the Koran that you can't have more than 4 wives was more fleshed out than that. You could have up to 4 wives if you could satisfy them all on every level, physically, financially, emotionally. And it was an inside joke because a man can't even satisfy 1 woman completely. Right. How are you going to satisfy 4? So that was like, but the same thing, and the older you get, the less, you may be able to satisfy them financially, but that also encourages the woman to be a gold digger. So you're ruining it for everybody. Yeah. And so it's better if people just let young love prosper and blossom. And if the old people just did what they're good at, which is maybe guiding, maybe sharing some of the wisdom and knowledge that they've accrued over a lifetime, and that people sorely need to hear. They retire people, if you're a pilot or any profession at a certain age, you have a wealth of knowledge to spread. And there's an old saying that information leads to knowledge, leads to power, leads to freedom. So it starts with information. So we should, and people don't communicate enough. You could have a missing piece of information that could save someone's life.
Right.
Two strangers could just pass like ships in the night, and they could both have pieces of information that they take for granted, that if the other one heard it, could save their life and make their life worth living. So we need to communicate more. And that's why being in the media like you're in is invaluable for you and for the people that you help. Because it's not just entertainment, and it's not just infotainment, and it's not just information. It's not just anything. It's human beings. When we communicate, we're more fully human.
Yeah.
So this is like part of our lifetime education in this university of the universe to become fully human.
Yeah, I feel like the podcast media is as organic as like media can get for the most part. But I think that this is a great way to finish off the episode. I mean, I learned so much in this short span of 33 minutes. I don't have any more questions for the most part. I would love to...
Oh, shucks, and I was going to go on for the 3 days. My record was 10 hours once when I was younger. I had 20 people in my loft, and by the end of my sermonette, there was only one person left awake. And a friend of mine warned me last night, don't bore people to death. Think ahead of time, a couple of subjects here that are most important to you. I said, no, I like to be spontaneous. I like to just talk from my heart. So, anyway.
No, I mean, I would love to come back and just hang out on a more personal level if you have me.
What I did here for a while was every week I'd have a group of people get together, different group, it was open-ended invitation, and I'd call it something different every week. I called it the Genius Club, I called it the Idiots Club, I call it the Anonymous, whatever. But it was fun just having people share and come up with new subjects. And it's amazing what's on people's minds and how much they need to express and how much we need to listen. That's one thing I'm learning. That's why, really, one thing I haven't done in my lifetime yet is learn to listen. I've learned to talk, and it's probably true of most people. So I love the opportunity of having more years to that, but we never guaranteed more years. So we better get everything of importance done. Like Benjamin Franklin said, do not put off till tomorrow what you can do today. I would tell the people who believe in reincarnation, don't put off till next lifetime what you can do today. And I would tell all of us, don't even put off a minute what you can do this minute. And the main thing you can do and should do is enjoy your life.
I like that. I like how that ended. Yeah. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you very much. This
I
has
appreciate
been great. Because when I stopped doing the radio show, everyone's been telling me since, you should do a podcast now. I say, not yet. So you're my first reintroduction into the social media world.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will leave all the links to PREM, to Larry. I will put everything in the description. And, thank you.
Terrific.